if 2008 was the birth of social media in terms of its role in the electoral process, 2012 is really seeing the coming of age of social media and in terms of the democratic process, the elections and everything that's going on. A lot of things have changed since 2008. Twitter has grown substantially, for instance, and we've seen even a couple of new platforms come into their own, like Pinterest, for instance, which is a picture-based platform. One that both not only the president has played a role in, but also the First Lady and Ann Romney as well. So it's been interesting to see how things have evolved from purely a text-based media to pictures to all sorts of new interesting ideas and concepts coming out. The Obama campaign, for instance, has started working with interactive infographics that kind of try and capture people's interest and produce kind of a viral aspect to what's going on, though not something you can manufacture. It's something that they're trying to move in the direction of. Another interesting thing that's happened is that the growth of social media from not only the campaign's point of view, but also the consumption of it by the electorate. So for instance, individuals are more likely to be involved in social media now than they were 4 years ago. Smartphone use is on the increase, partially because the price has dropped dramatically. A recent Pew study shows that almost 50% of Americans, 45% actually have smartphones right now and are continuing to use it on a more regular basis. It's up almost from a much larger number than from 2008. As a result of that, people can become engaged in the democratic process, in the electoral process on a day-to-day basis. And so there's more use of it from not only from the campaign's perspective, but also from the citizens' perspective. Going forward, it's interesting to see how the campaigns are starting to adapt to that new use and adapt to that new participation by the consumers, by the citizens. Recent interesting conversations that have happened, for instance, are around like the conventions that just ended, where, for instance, a hashtag subject, a topic on Twitter that became prominent was Eastwooding, which referred to talking to an empty chair and featured a bunch of pictures of people talking to various empty chairs. These kind of humorous elements are something that social media allows to come to fruition in the electoral process that aren't necessarily part of the official conversation that's going on, right? Twitter also mentioned that there's been a number of topics over the conventions that have become very popular. For instance, the Barack Obama's speech was considered to be the most popular political event ever tweeted about during the history of Twitter. And things have changed quite a bit as people have tried to adapt different tactics to the prominent use of Twitter as a news gathering device. For instance, the Republicans actually tried a sponsored topic where they actually paid money to Twitter to have them talk about, to list a topic as more prominent during the conventions. And they specifically targeted the Democratic National Convention, and the topic they talked about was, "Are you better off?" Now, this actually wound up backfiring for the Republican campaign. About 5 responses were yes for every no response that they received, seeming to show an indication that they've actually failed to properly use social media in this particular context to promote a conversation. Now, the reason why that happened is partially because of the fact that when you start a conversation on social media, it's not carried on by you. It's carried on by the people who are responding, the people who are actually playing along with the hashtag game or playing along with the topic of conversation that you're having. And so as a result of that, you have to really be careful as to how you craft your social media message. And that's something that businesses can also learn from the way the campaign is going on. Figuring out good suggestions, good guidelines, best practices for companies in using social media is an area of research we're actively engaged at here in the Smith School of Business. For instance, recently in the Center for Complexity in Business, we've started looking at how to build a brand using social media. To do that, we've studied a number of up-and-coming rock music bands, actually, and their use of social media. And one important lesson we find is that, of course, the people listening to you, the people who are contributing to your conversations on social media are just as important as what you actually have to say. So you need to do a lot of work to actually engage actively with those conversations and continue those conversations on into the future.